my people at Redemption Chapel. Pastor Rick coming to you with another video to answer questions that pop up from time to time. This time what I'm going to tackle is the question, are tattoos okay? Is it okay for a Christian to get a tattoo? This question comes up from time to time, and obviously I have an opinion on this. I got a tat right there. And so yeah, I think it is actually okay. But the reason the question comes up is there is this kind of obscure verse in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 28. Let me read it to you. Out of the ESV, it says, "You shall not make any cuts on your body for the dead, or tattoo yourselves. I am the Lord." Okay? You shall not make any cuts on your body for the dead, or tattoo yourself. I am the Lord. Seems pretty clear, right? Not so much. Not so much. A couple points. Number one, you need to understand the Hebrew word that is translated into English in that verse as tattoo. There's problems in the translation of it. One of the problems is that word does not appear anywhere else in the Old Testament. What that means is we don't have a lot of clues as to what that word is to translate it accurately. And so scholars, when you ask them about this, they will often say that the word means to mark the skin, perhaps tattoo. That's what they'll say. To mark the skin, but perhaps tattoo. So it could be cutting, it could be branding in any attempt to make a permanent mark or a scar on the skin. It's possible that it was about ink being inlaid into the skin, but only possible. After all, this was 3,500 years ago that verse was recorded. So you need to get rid of, from your mind, any image of some modern implement of an ink-laden needle that is inking your skin. That just wasn't the case. It was much more probably branding in order to leave a scar. So the verse is probably about branding. Now, the second point would be one of context. Remember, when we interpret the scriptures, context is king. And so if you look at the very verse itself in Leviticus 19:28, it says to not make any mark on your body for the dead. Quote unquote, for the dead. What was that? Like, when you get a tattoo, are you getting a tattoo for the dead? Probably not. So you're not in trouble here. What's going on in the verse is a pagan practice of cutting yourself during a time of mourning. And you would do that for one of two reasons, either so that your lifeblood could flow in order to provide lifeblood for your dear departed loved one. Not a good practice. Or you were doing it to appease the pagan deity who just took your dear departed loved one. Again, not a good practice. So this is a brand, it is a cut, a mark on the body as a memorial for the dead, to try to give lifeblood to the dead. So yeah, the command is very clearly, Israelites, don't participate in that pagan practice. And I would carry that through. Christians, don't participate in that pagan practice, but that's not what modern tattoos are. You see that, right? All right. So the second point would be one of context. My third point would be simply kind of broader context, like to take another step back and get an even bigger context of the Old Testament. This law we find in Leviticus 19:28 is in the category of the ceremonial laws. All right. So when we look at the Old Testament, there is this big category of law, but underneath that, there are three subcategories of the ceremonial law, the moral law, and the civil law. Start at the end there with the civil law. Remember, Israel is a theocracy, and so there are commands in there of this crime gets that punishment. That's a civil code. And because they're a theocracy, you find civil laws in there. You also find these ceremonial laws. Let me go towards that. The ceremonial laws were there in order to set the Jews apart as a unique, a special people. And so when you look at the verses surrounding this verse about that we think is about tattoos. You find in there commands about the kosher laws, like that you're not supposed to eat meat with the blood in it, and that's why they'll string it up by its hooves and slit the throat and drain the blood out. Now it's kosher meat, and you can eat that. But of course, doesn't matter if it's pork, you'd never eat it. So no bacon, right? So there's the kosher diet laws. Also surrounding Leviticus 19, you find commands about you're not allowed to shave your head. So you bald guys who bick your dome, naughty, naughty, stop that, all right? And then thirdly, another thing you find in there is that you're not allowed to trim the edges of your beard. So think in terms of like ZZ Top or Duck Dynasty or Orthodox Jews, right? They don't trim the edges of their beard. So if you shave like I do, or if you trim up your beard, naughty, naughty, okay? So here's the point. It was to set them apart. The ceremonial laws, or sometimes called the cleanliness laws, are to set the Jews apart as unique people. But you have to either take all of them or none of them forward into the Christian experience. And so they're all in or all out. So you can't be against tattoos because of the Old Testament. You can't be against tattoos but then eat like non-kosher food, like you're eating bacon, shaving your head, and trimming your beard. You can't do that. So if you're against tattoos, you got to hold to all the ceremonial laws, and you're in trouble. You're in trouble. So one of the questions we have to answer then is, I'm just saying so far you have to be consistent. They're all in or all out. So are they all in or all out? So one of the questions comes up, do you have to be Jewish in order to become a Christian? Do you as Christians have to keep all those Old Testament ceremonial laws? Unfortunately, the apostles were very clear on this. You can look in Acts. You can look in Galatians, you can look in Romans. No. You do not need to keep all of those laws. Christ fulfilled those laws, and a lot of them are, I won't get into that. So you don't need to keep all those laws. Nope, you don't. Well, then why were they there? Why are all those laws there? Again, two reasons. One, they were there to set the Jews apart as a unique, special, called people who were supposed to deliver the message of the Lord, the Old Testament, but also the people from whom the Messiah would come. His line would go through the Jews. So that was the first thing to set them apart. But then the second thing, they are there to compound the law, to make the law so it is so clear that you can't keep it. The point of the law isn't to make you holy. The point of the law is to make you unholy so that you go, holy crap, I need a Savior. And then you hear Jesus hanging on the cross saying, it is finished, which means he completed it. And in Greek, it's one word. It's tetelestai. That's what my tattoo is. So our lesson there is that righteousness comes from Christ, not from keeping the law. Well, then some people would say, well, great. Can we do whatever we want? Can I commit murder? Can I commit adultery? Because after all, Jesus fulfilled it all. And the answer is no. Now you're in the category of the moral law. And you find that not only in the Old Testament, but the New Testament as well. The moral laws hold. And we know that because they are often reaffirmed in the New Testament. So you have Jesus saying, you have heard that it was said, you shall not commit murder. But I say to you, if you've even called your brother Raka, which means like you fool, you empty head, you've committed murder in your heart. So you not only affirm the law, he upped the ante on it, right? And then in the New Testament, you'll find kind of lists of sins, like big sinner categories at times. Interestingly, the ceremonial laws aren't listed there. They're never like down on you for like, you didn't keep the Sabbath and you ate non-kosher meat. No, it's all the moral laws that are carried forward. So, no, I believe tattoos are absolutely okay. And that's because the verse in the Old Testament in Leviticus 19:28 probably isn't even speaking about tattoos as we know them today. But even if it is, then it's in the category of the ceremonial laws, and we set that aside. Christians, you're okay to get ink. Do it wisely. Think in terms of what would bring glory and honor to the Lord. Think just wisdom in life. I mean, yeah, but you're okay too. Of course, then the question comes up, well, why then? Why do so many Christians get their knickers in a twist over tattoos? And I'll tell you, sometimes it's just people being sincerely misinformed. They read Leviticus 19:28. It seems clear. How dare you, right? So listen, if you're in dialogue with somebody, maybe you agree with me and they don't, I just want to ask you to be kind to them. Remember, Jesus is glorified not just by what we believe from the scriptures, but also by how we treat people when we disagree. And so much dishonor has been brought on the name of Christ by Christians and how they argue with each other publicly. Be kind. But I think some people are not just uninformed and misled. I think sometimes it's an outcropping of legalism. Legalism is where we substitute the traditions of our Christian subculture for the Bible. That we take man-made rules and we stick them in God's mouth as if God said them. They're God's rules, and they weren't. They're our rules. And we have these things like, can you drink beer and can you go to the movies? Can you watch Harry Potter? What about Disney movies? What about music? And what about what you wear to church? And what about bathing suits? And can you say anything harsher than golly gee or shucky darns? And the traditions of our Christian subculture offer a lot of answers there, and sometimes we elevate these to the Word of God, and they're not. One of the things that sometimes happens there is we start to put emphasis on external holiness instead of internal holiness. So when I had my tattoo done, a local newspaper, the Akron Beacon Journal, picked it up and ran an article on it before a Good Friday. And when that article went live, the online version of it, there was all this debate and dialogue. Now, one lady actually wrote to me. I suspect she was an older lady just by her handwriting and the way it looked. And I'll tell you what, she disagreed with me, but she was so kind and so respectful and so nice. She's a sister of mine. We disagree, but we're okay. Online, though, there was one guy. Oh my goodness, he was so unhumble and unteachable. He was critical and judgmental. But I'll tell you what, he thought he was holier than I because he didn't have tattoos. I'll tell you what, I would rather stand before Jesus covered in tattoos with a kind and gracious heart than tattoo-free, but mean-spirited and haughty. That's the difference between external and internal holiness. And what we see over and over throughout the scriptures is Jesus is focused on internal holiness. What's going on in your heart? We go with heart issues, not skin issues. Get it? All right. So there's my answer. I think yes. Obviously, I'm on record. I've got ink, and I want more ink. I want to get a sleeve, but I just don't have time to design it. I've got ideas, but I just don't have time. I've got a growing church. So, but there it is. And I think it's okay, believers, for you to have ink. Just do it wisely. Do it to glorify Jesus. All right? Enough of that. I hope this is a blessing to you. You guys keep the questions coming. Love you guys. Bye-bye.